We have a little more time here. We have some questions on Twitter as well, but I wanted to just get your response about this because Dana White, I guess he's been sparring with Tito Ortiz about this fight this past weekend. Harrington, pull up Dana White's quote about the Tito Ortiz Chuck Liddell fight, which yeah, I mean, I guess Chuck Liddell. He says he might fight again. Still, he's saying he might fight again, which nobody wants that. But what is the quote? Do you have it?
It's a couple things I have from Dana here. I heard last week that the cokehead Oscar De La Weirdo is talking shit that I don't have any place to tell guys when to retire. First of all, it's called a friendship, you fucking cokehead. I've been friends with Chuck Liddell for 20 years, and the reality is that Chuck Liddell retired when he should have retired 8 or 9 years ago, whenever it was. Then he went on to say Tito and Oscar De La Dummy were made for each other. Those two fucking nutheads. First of all, Tito said, you guys want to get paid? Come over to Golden Boy MMA. Are you kidding me? Hey, you wait, my brother. You wait and see how all this pans out. Everybody's going to be suing everybody in a couple of months. There was no money made over there. De La Hoya is a moron, an absolute moron, and I don't know how Chuck allowed himself to get talked into this shit.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's coming from a good place from Dana. You know, it is. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, he's got some personal issues with Oscar De La Hoya there, and you know, that's between them. I don't know what's going on. He cares for Chuck Liddell. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they went to the UFC first with that fight, and he wanted no part of it. He did. You know, listen, you know, Dana was he was very honorable about all of that. He even allowed them to announce the fight at the UFC Hall of Fame induction ceremony last year, you know, to get them extra press to try and, you know, encourage them to make as much money as possible, you know, and now, you know, he was proved correct. I mean, Chuck, you know, we spoke about it last time, you know, you got to give the guy respect, but he didn't look good, and he potentially, you know, who knows, that might haunt him. And now he's not even saying that he's retired. There's even potentially he might fight again. So obviously Dana is pissed off at that. And you know, as a friend, as somebody that cares about somebody, I understand that. Now, Tito Ortiz, if I'm not mistaken, he came back on Instagram with something, correct?
Yeah, what was Tito's response, Harrington? Yeah, you can pull it up on the screen while we read it.
Tito said, excuse me, Dana White, I appreciate everything you've done for me in the sport. In my humble opinion, I don't feel Chuck and I were compensated correctly for all that we gave and sacrificed for the company. When you sold the company for over $4.5 billion, how much of that did Chuck and I get? Nothing. I'm trying to build something new and rewarding for the sport. This is not about you. This is not about me. I want it to be about the fighters and giving them the opportunity to share in all the rewards this business has to offer, to where they don't have to fight when they are 43 and 48 at Golden Boy Boxing at UFC.
Well, it's all getting a little petty, isn't it? You know what I mean? I mean, I don't want to get into a case of he said, she said, he's right, she's wrong. At the end of the day, listen, Tito's trying to make some money with Golden Boy. That's what's going on here. So he's showing his allegiance to Oscar De La Hoya. He wants to have another fight promoted. He wants to potentially get into partnering with him and make some money. And you know, God bless him for that. You know, you can't blame him. Everybody's out there trying to hustle and trying to make money. Of course, Dana has been throwing a bit of shade, and I feel it's coming from a good place for Dana. And Tito is countering with his own point of view. I got to say, you know, some of the paychecks on the undercard weren't very good. You know, like $1,000. I think even on, because I did see the Instagram. Yeah. I did see, I was looking at that post, you know, from Tito earlier, and I had a look through the comments, and somebody that actually fought on the undercard on the comment section said, "What are you talking about? I made $1,500 fighting on Saturday night." Yeah. So, you know,
who's this?
I don't know. I have Craig Wilkerson as making $1,500 on the card.
Yeah, Fernie Garcia. Yeah. So, look, here's the truth. Okay, we've seen this happen before. We saw, I remember Affliction when they created their promotion. They were paying Tim Sylvia $3 million a fight. Where the fuck is Affliction now? Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Where are they now? People like to trash the UFC, but what they've done, I've said this many times, this is me being very consistent here, okay? Because I have no allegiance to fucking anybody but myself and my kid, right?
I'll tell you where Affliction are. They're still selling those same fucking jackets with the flames and the dragons and
I don't
shit.
even think they're selling those jackets anymore. Nobody's buying them.
No, they are. You go to the Hard Rock Casino in Las Vegas, which I know you've been to, and there's an affliction store, and it's like going back to 2003. It's the exact same shit. And I was there recently. Hey, I was sponsored by Affliction, so much love. I'm not trying to trash on them, but it's like you would think they would maybe get with the times a little bit, with the skulls and the dragons and the flames and the fucking Daenerys Targaryens all over the leather jackets. You know what I mean? I'm not into it. Styles have moved on. But anyway, sorry, you were saying.
But they want to, and it's very easy to say, hey, you got to pay what these guys are worth. The UFC have created an industry where thousands of people are eating off of this. And it's not, I think we watched it, so, boxers make so much more. Well, there's no brand. The WBC, the WBO, there's no brand there. They haven't created anything with longevity. And there's, the reason I believe that boxing is in the position that it's in is specifically because of that. Now, Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell, yes, they made a third of the pay-per-view dollars, but let's step back for a second. They were co-promoters. The promoters are still taking the lion's share. All the other fighters in the card are still making bullshit compared to what the promoters are making. You've stepped up into the role of promoter. You're not even talking about it as being a fighter because you're paid $250,000 a show. You're paid comparable what you would have been paid in the UFC. But the promoter is just sort of a different formula. And that formula, which is not reinvesting into the business, it was just not reinvesting into a brand, a marketing department, a graphic designs department. I mean, dude, the UFC is such a robust company. I don't know how many employees it has, but it has to have hundreds of employees at least. They've created an industry, and you have to step back sometimes as a business owner. I look at what we do here at Gas Digital. I go, do you have any idea what goes on in the back end behind the doors that people have no understanding? It's so easy to go, dude, why don't you get a better microphone? There's a million little fucking factors that go into every little thing, and it's very easy to sit from your couch and kind of go, oh, well, this is the way you should do it. The UFC have created nothing but opportunity for a lot of people, myself included. I make money on this show because of the work that the UFC and Dana White have put in to creating a brand. And if they didn't do what they did, nobody else would have done it. Everyone else still tries to emulate it, and nobody else has done it as good. And everyone still fails in comparison to what the UFC does. And I'm not kissing their ass. I will never get a paycheck from the UFC. I promise you. I've said too much fucked up shit on microphones. I'm never getting a paycheck from them. It just is what it is.
I totally agree. And to be honest, you said a slogan, a phrase, whatever. You put two words together earlier and you hit the nail on the head. You said the words boxing model. Okay. And that's the way it is. In the boxing model, it's top heavy. Now, of course, in the UFC, the main events, they take the lion's share of the money that goes out to the fighters, whatever you want to call that. Yeah, in the main event gets more than everybody else. Generally, not always, actually, not always. If there's somebody big on the co-main event, or even an Alistair Overeem, he makes like $800,000-900,000 a fight. Sometimes you might have somebody in the main event that gets paid less than that. But the boxing model is very different. The world champions, the guys selling the pay-per-view in boxing, yes, they make tremendous amounts of money. But generally, everybody else on the undercard, they're making the type of sums that we just spoke about, $1,000, $500, sometimes $200. I think on the Mayweather Pacquiao card, there were some people on there for like $500 or $1,000, which is crazy. But that's the way boxing is. And I think I spoke about this once before, and this isn't me defending the UFC or kissing Dana's ass, but it's me understanding and accepting of the situation. When I was trying to negotiate more money from Dana White for the George St. Pierre fight, which I felt I should have got more money. Of course I do, and I was negotiating with Dana trying to get more, and I said, well, hold on a minute. My word, what's his name? I forgot the boxer's name. It's pissing me off. I said, this guy here, man, it'll come to me in a second. I said, he got paid $5 million guaranteed. And his fight was on HBO, and it got, I think it was 150,000 buys. I said, but he got $5 million guaranteed. We're talking about this maybe doing 1 million pay-per-view buys, so I need more money guaranteed. And he said, but Mike, that's the boxing model. It's not the UFC model. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you've earned a very good amount of money your entire career. And he's right, I have. I've been paid very well from the get-go from the UFC. Even when I was on my Ultimate Fighter contract, where I was making 12 and 12, afterwards Dana would pass me a check for $200,000. He always took care of myself, and I wasn't the only person getting that kind of treatment. And he said, if you want to go back to the boxing model, Mike, you only just became a world champion. This is your second title defense. If we were on the boxing model right now, you wouldn't have made shit. Okay, you wouldn't be living in a nice house. You wouldn't have money saved. You wouldn't have some businesses. You wouldn't have investments. Okay, you'd be on the boxing model where you'd still be a struggling boxer, struggling to make ends meet. But in the UFC model, the way we do things, you've been compensated well. So, and he kind of had me there because it was a fair point. Now, do I stand by the fact that I thought I deserved, and rightly so, thought I deserved my money? Yes, of course. But he did have me there, and it was a fair and valid point.
And the value. Well, there's also this value of being a UFC fighter, being a UFC veteran. It holds a lot of value. That brand that they have built, the UFC has built over the years, it's the Coca-Cola of mixed martial arts. Being a UFC veteran means you can walk into other promotions, ask for a higher rate. You can get jobs training people. You can open up a gym. There's so much value in just fighting for the UFC, just being a veteran of the UFC. And we don't really see that anywhere else. You can have 3 losses in the UFC, get cut, and go UFC veteran, and there's value. There's brand value there. And that's something that I've always sort of respected with the UFC, is that they were the people who were leading the dance. It's a dance, and it's always the fighter and the promoter, right? And I've said this about Conor many a times. If Conor had come up through Bellator and never come into the UFC, nobody would be talking about Conor McGregor today, period.
Yep, you're right. I agree. I mean, what you're talking about there, though, a moment ago about, having brand worth when you go to other organizations. Yeah, that's true, but it's not really the point of the discussion. The point of the discussion is, revenue split fairly between fighters and the organization. But you're right, and that is changing. People like Ronda Rousey, Conor McGregor, Brock Lesnar, people like that, it's slowly been pushed up. I mean, we never heard of people getting $3 million plus pay-per-view, years ago. It's going up all the time. The sport's getting bigger. It's becoming more and more mainstream. And you can make a very, very good, happy living in the UFC. I've made something of myself that I never thought possible. When I was younger, of course, I was ambitious, but, I came from, a humble background, left school at 16. I never thought I'd be sitting here in fucking California, comfortable. I'm not a rich man, far from it, but I guess everything's what's the word I'm looking for? Subjective. I'm anybody that lives in a house is a rich man compared to a homeless person, so everything's subjective. But I'm comfortable, and that's through fighting for the UFC and now working for the UFC. So I'm a loyal man. I'm a loyal man, and I recognize where my bread's been buttered over the years. That sounded gay. Let's just take a quick word from one of our sponsors, which is Perform Asleep. Christmas is coming up. You don't want to get the same shitty gifts every time. Guess what? Surprise them. Think outside the box. Get them a new bed. Get them a new mattress, and they will thank you for this. They will not believe what you did for them. Sleeping is very important, okay? If you have a shitty night's sleep, it's terrible. Last night, I slept terrible. I really did. I felt like shit all day. Even though you wouldn't think it, Lewis, you're looking at me and you're thinking, wow, this guy's on the ball. He looks 21. Guess what? I had a shit night's sleep because I slept in my son's bed, and he does not have a Perform Asleep mattress. And I can't wait to get back into mine tonight. And you know why? You know why I love that thing so much? It's because of the Copper Cool technology.
I love
Copper
it.
Cool. What is that? Yeah, me too. It's a combination of gel particles and microscopic copper particles infused throughout the foam to create cooler nights, give added support, and all the great benefits of copper, Lewis.
I'm one of the guys that, like, here's what happens. I get very hot throughout the night. Maybe it's my Latin blood. But when my girlfriend tries to snuggle with me, I kick her in the stomach. I'm like, get the fuck away from me. Don't touch me in the night because you're going to make me sweat. And I don't want to be. I have to create a barrier of pillows. I have to turn my pillow over 7 or 8 times throughout the night because I get so hot. I start to get sweaty. The Copper Cool technology has changed the game. I can't sleep on another bed. The Performer Sleep bed has changed the way that I view sleeping. Okay, sleeping wasn't exciting for me before. We spent a third of our lives in bed, and I just was never looking forward to it. Now I don't look forward to waking up. I love it, okay? The gel beads infumed in the foam form together under the body, giving variable support in deeper compression areas such as the hips, the shoulder blades, and other areas. This prevents the sleeper from bottoming out and also helps keep their spinal alignment in perfect position to prevent any type of back pain.
Yes.
It does. It's the most comfortable. I don't
It
know.
does.
I'm not a fucking scientist. It's the most comfortable bed I've ever slept in.
Lewis, we all know you're not a scientist, okay? We know that. But guess what? You don't need to be a scientist either to enjoy the Copper Cool technology, because guess what? We have a tremendous offer for you. You buy this thing, you purchase one of these mattresses. If you don't like it, you can send it back. You can have it for 100 days. That is over 3 months, okay? You can have this bed for over 3 months. You can have sex in it. You can do all kinds of crazy shit in it and then go, you know what? Too many crimes have happened in this bed. Let's send it back.
Take
okay?
it back. That
Now,
might even be the thing that turns you on at night when you go to sleep. Like knowing that they have to take your bed back that you've had sex in like 100 times.
Maybe if you're very, very weird and need a psychiatrist, and yeah, you know, I'm thinking of you there. But if you want to get involved, you want to buy a mattress, you want to get one for somebody, you want to get a unique gift, then go to performasleep.com. That's perform, PERFORM, performasleep.com, and use the promo code BELIEVE. We'll give you $150 off any size mattress. And as I say, 100 days, try it out. Don't like it, send it back. Cost you nothing. Performasleep.com, promo code BELIEVE.